Hi, this is Curt and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
So, okay, let's head to Denver. This is a really good lesson for employers. You give great kudos to documentation,
and they deserve it. The Denver Fire Department deserves a lot of kudos. They did a bang up job on this one.
Yeah. So here, look, these are pretty simple facts, right? They have there's actually two plaintiffs. I don't know what happened to the other. Well, they're still going, but
yeah.
So. And I think they're both probationary firefighters. I don't know anything about the other one.
They both have since departed.
Oh, okay. So here we have a probationary firefighter. She's female, and I believe African American. I'm not totally positive.
Yes.
She did not do very well at the academy, but she did graduate from the academy. She's still on probation when she gets out of the academy, and she says, well, you fired me. I'm going to tell about what she did to get her fired, but she claims she's fired, and you can't do that. You can't fire me. And what the city comes back and does, having really documented every time these probationary firefighters, not just this female, I presume they have a good training and education and documentary history, or a history of documenting these things, right? Clearly, everybody's involved documenting. So it seems. In any event, so she doesn't do great at the fire academy, but she does graduate. And she first tries to say, listen, you can't use my performance at the fire academy because I graduated. And the court throws us out. So of course we can use your performance. But then they go further in that because the city then explains why she was terminated. Now, we're going to get back. We'll talk about McDonnell Douglas, and we'll talk about burden shifting again, because it's good to talk about every
week. We've got to talk about McDonnell Douglas burden shifting.
Absolutely. But the reason she's terminated, just to jump ahead, the final straw is, and part of this, I was like, well, I don't have a problem with that. But the first she's hits a hydrant, and she doesn't secure water. And that clearly was a problem. So she doesn't tell anyone that she didn't secure water. Now, they said, she left a hydrant wrench on the hydrant. Well, I would always leave the hydrant wrench on the hydrant. I didn't get that part.
You live in a different neighborhood than I grew up in. You can't leave a hydrant. You can't.
Okay.
That's a no. The hydrant wrench goes with you.
I leave it for the next crew behind me to shut off water.
That doesn't work.
Okay. In any event, not the greatest.
Not where I spent my formative years.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is she doesn't tell the firefighters that she didn't get the water source.
Yeah,
that definitely should be a terminal offense, right? No question. And she's probationary, so they look at her skills and her decision making, etc. So just very quickly, because you can almost go to any week where we talk about burden shifting. It's the McDonnell Douglas U.S. Supreme Court case. We're just going to repeat it again very quickly for everybody. First, the plaintiff has to show that she's a member of protected class. Easy to do. She has two protected classes, race and gender, right? Female, and I think being African-American. And then the burden shifts, which is also not very hard to do, but the burden shifts back then to the employer to give a reason, right? And then it shifts back, and this is where the hard part of the cases are. You really have to find that the reasons are not pretextual, that it's the valid reason, and that's why I kind of prefaced it with, they had a lot of reasons to get rid of her, and it was a legitimate reason. The department doesn't have a history because they look at it, this kind of, not direct evidence, but other evidence. And it kind of says, you could look at, well, the history's always getting rid of females. The history's always getting rid of African-Americans, but she couldn't do that. And that was part of this. She claimed she had evidence, but it was not admissible, and she couldn't come back with admissible evidence. So ultimately, as against her, the city is victorious. I don't know. Why can't people just suck up? You're a bad firefighter.
Well, it's not for everybody. The job's not for everybody. And, but the thing I took away from this, and I would really encourage this, if you're the chief of training in a fire department or the chief, and you're wondering, well, how do you document someone who just isn't cutting it? I mean, what level of detail do you need? Take a look at the court ruling here, because the judge outlines all of her allegations and all of the fire department's evidence that they had to rebut each and every allegations. And there was somewhere, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 110 allegations and documentation for each of them, that she's alleging that this was discrimination. And here's the department showing, no, you failed to do this, you failed to do that. And here's the documentation. So, they really a good example of where all fire departments should be when it comes to that.
Legitimate documentation, right? I mean,
absolutely,
witness statements or whatever, but legitimate, real, not pretextual.
Right. This isn't about discrimination. This isn't about how to discriminate against somebody. This is about someone who happens to be in a protected class that is not able to do the job. And how does the department manage that part of the departure of that person from the workforce without in turn creating this liability for the organization? Because let's face it, not every white male is competent, not every black female is competent.
Not every anybody.
How do you prove it? And what sort of documentation? Given also that there are biases out there, how do we tease out or make sure that biases aren't being part of that decision making?
Right. So, and 110 different, that's a lot of evidence against you. So yeah, I think by 30 or 40, I probably would have been looking for a new job.
You would have thought that at some point when her attorney saw the documentation that the Denver Fire Department had, that they might have said, well, this isn't quite what you told us when you met with us the first time.
Right. And look, they could have kicked her out of the academy beforehand. They let her go this long. That says a lot. And I forget if the judge makes note of this, but it says a lot when the city's tolerating you for that long. But, if, as a final last straw, you don't tell your firefighters you're untruthful. It's not a skill issue. You're untruthful with what you were not able to do, right? Secure water. I'd fire you for that alone. So anyway, but good job for Denver. And that really is, that is the way.